There. Hello, everyone.
Now it's just we're live.
This was a rough start.
Restart.
Surprise. Okay. Well, okay. So, not sure what happened with the beginning. We went through the 30-second countdown, and for some reason, we just didn't go live. So, surprise, here we are. So Carl is not able to make it tonight. So Miss Carrie was gracious enough to agree very last minute to help me co-host tonight. So again, Carrie, thank you, and we just want to say welcome to everybody. And sorry for the messed up introduction here tonight. We're winging it.
Yeah, y'all pray for us. We may have some technical difficulties. We're just working through them.
So, Carrie, is there anything you wanted to share, say before we get into the show?
Oh, just that the Lord would give us wisdom as we go forth today. And if you're out there and you're listening, please get involved, get in the comments, and if there's anything you want to talk about, let us know. I think you had something you wanted to talk about tonight, right?
Yeah, I wanted to kind of touch a little bit on the 14th Amendment and just get people's opinion because it's kind of been a hot topic lately with Trump wanting to end birthright citizenship. And I'm hearing a lot of people discussing it on social media. And so I thought we could just talk a little bit about that and share, different things that I've been reading from different historians on how the 14th Amendment came to be, what it was intended for, and what it is today. And Carrie, she hasn't been able to do as much research. Like I said, this was very last minute for her. Um, but she's very wise and knowledgeable. So we're going to definitely enjoy getting her opinion on it. So, Carrie, what is your understanding of what the 14th Amendment is? And then I'll try to share mine.
Okay. Well, the 14th Amendment says that if you're born here in the United States, that you have to fall under the jurisdiction. And so there's been some confusion on interpretation on that, and that's why President Trump is trying to get that straightened out, I believe. And I think that people think that just because they have a baby here, they should be allowed to stay, but that's not true. That's not how the Constitution reads in the 14th Amendment. So, and that was what you were talking about earlier, saying that, people want to just, come in and have a baby and then stay. And that's not how it reads. So I
Right.
wanted to share what you had to say about it. And yeah.
Okay. So, growing up my whole life, I had just basically been taught that if you were just born here, it didn't matter the status of the parents, you were just a citizen. Um, and that's what a lot of people are arguing today is that the Constitution just simply states if you are born or naturalized here, you're a citizen. When you actually go back and read it, it actually states it's a twofold thing. So it says if you are born or naturalized, so that's the first half of it, born or naturalized, but there's not a period there like what we are hearing thrown around today. Everybody's saying if you're just born here, well, there's no period. It says and subject to the jurisdiction. So that's where it's getting a little tricky with the arguments there as well, is because people who are acknowledging the second half of that sentence are debating who is subject to our jurisdiction, who is not. So on both sides of it, um, you have people saying if you just run across the border, you are not just automatically under our jurisdiction. You're not here legally, you don't have permission, etc. By the same token, just having permission in itself does not automatically put you under our jurisdiction, such as diplomatic immunity. Diplomats have um, permission to come into our country on diplomatic business, but they're not subject to our jurisdiction. They are still subject to the country that they are coming from. And so there's a certain process that has to be done and completed for anyone to be technically subject to our jurisdiction. So even if a diplomat who has permission to come in our country gives birth, their child is not an automatic citizen of the United States. They can request a green card for dual citizenship, but they are not automatically a citizen just because they had permission to be here. So, permission in itself does not automatically place somebody under our jurisdiction. And that's where it gets tricky because on the other side of it, you have people arguing that if we have the right to deport people or charge them with a crime or something, that they are subject to our jurisdiction. Well, back to the other side, they're saying there has to be a certain amount of subject to jurisdiction. Otherwise, the whole world could just flood our country, commit crimes, and do whatever, and we could never do anything. We can't say anything. We can't do anything. There has to be some kind of consequence to uh, just the coming in. Even if they don't come and commit further crimes, just the act that they're coming in is a crime, um, which necessitates deportation, but they have not gone through the legal process to actually end anything in their country. If they're flooding our border, they have not technically ended anything having to do with their jurisdiction. They're still a full, complete citizen subject to their own country if they just run across the border and come in. They haven't even done the bare minimum of just getting permission, much less completing the process. So what happens when people say, well, if you just come in and give birth, you're a citizen. Well, that's where we're coming into all the anchor baby stuff and having to still continue to support the illegal immigrants because they're saying, well, my child's a citizen. And we're forgetting the second half of that sentence that says, and subject to the jurisdiction. So are they subject to the jurisdiction or not? When Carrie and I spoke earlier, and Carrie says, I share this, I'm going to get your input. But I shared with Carrie, I said, the example that I could think of to use to explain it is if the lady across the street or down the road, her husband dies, she's got children, she's 9 months pregnant, she's terrified. So she just comes busting in my front door with her children and says, I'm terrified and I'm going to stay here and y'all are going to take care of me. No, we're not. Go home. I can help cook the meals and take down or whatever if I want to out of my grace. We're not. No, you're not part of our human being. You got to go home. It's far home. You can't invite it in. And if she plops out a baby on my couch, that still doesn't give her the right to stay in my house with the man that she lives with us forever and that we have to provide for because she gave birth to a baby. Did she give birth in my home? Yes, just like the illegal immigrant mother who birthed in our country at home. But that does not automatically entitle them to being subject to our jurisdiction and entitled to all of our rights. If you continue to read through the 14th Amendment, everything is subject to citizenship. And yes, in a couple places, right underneath that says all people, but everything is still under citizen and born or naturalized and subject to jurisdiction. So when you look back through what historians are saying, they're saying this was actually originally put in place for people that were brought over under slavery, etc., or Native Americans who were enslaved. And they were subject to their slave masters. They didn't flood our border. They were brought over on ships or whatever else and forced into slavery. And by action of the slave owners, etc., they were then put under the jurisdiction of this country. Now, when slavery ended, many slaves did choose to go back to their home country, many stayed. So, when the 14th Amendment was put in, these slaves did not have any kind of citizenship or rights or anything. So, this was um, Congress's way of trying to give them citizenship, since they had, many of them, been there here their entire lives, subject to all the laws, forced to work as slaves, et cetera, and to guarantee that their children that were being born here would be citizens due to the circumstances. But this was not applying to people just running across the border back then, and it was, if you read the congressman's statement when he introduced it to Congress, he even stated this does not apply to future people that just come into our country, that there's a process and a way, to come into the country. But it was not being put in place for people in the future who were just on their own coming in. So it was all relative to the people that had been here and brought over by us. That bias just bringing them over on the ships and stuff, that we were, by essence, giving them permission and placing them under our jurisdiction. So there's two different situations in that scenario versus people just running across the Rio Grande or the Canadian border and saying, "Hey, I'm here and you got to accept me." And then, like I said, if the lady down the road gives birth on my couch, we aren't, we don't have to take care of her. That doesn't make her our burden. It doesn't make her child a member of our family from my husband's paychecks to have to raise and support her and her child. They still have to go back home. So it's still kind of the comparable
Yeah.
scenario to the mother coming over giving birth in America. That doesn't make you a citizen. The child is a minor, is subject to you as the parent. You are still a subject of your home country. Go home.
Hmm. Yeah. Even if you invited her in your home, there's a certain boundary there.
Right.
If they're invited into our country, doesn't mean you can come in here and then stay because you had a baby here. I think that people are confused, with the jurisdiction thing. And ultimately, if they left the baby here, the baby would be under our jurisdiction, and that would be something that we would have to deal with. But as far as them being citizens, they're not, and they need to come in legally. If they want their baby to be an American citizen, then, come in and apply, or, apply for asylum if you really are in a bad situation. Do it legally, and then the baby would be a citizen at that point. If you got yourself, because the baby is technically under their jurisdiction until they leave, and then it becomes, a ward of the state, and then of course it would be under our jurisdiction to deal with that. We wouldn't just port a baby into nowhere land, but they do have to follow the laws here, even if they come here, if they come legally, and you're still not going to just come in and rape and pillage here. That's just not going to be okay. And they think that they came here illegally. They're not breaking the law. They're mistaken. The law says that you have to, come in a certain way. So they're already a criminal by definition when they get here. So, yeah, unfortunately, that's the way it is.
Right. And it's not saying that they're a violent criminal or something that way, but they are breaking the law by coming in the way they're choosing to. You do not have permission. You come in my house without permission, it's not going to be a good thing for you. I don't care. I don't care if you come in my house without permission and say, hey, I'm just here to crash on your couch and watch TV, and I'm not going to commit any more crimes. No, you committed a crime just by coming in my house the way you did, and it's not going to go good for you. I'm not going to wait to see if you're going to come in my house and rape me or kill me and my children to say, oh, maybe I should have found a way to deal with you when you came through my front door busting it down. To me, it's the
Mhm.
same scenario as them coming across the river and saying, hey, we're here. And now you have to give us all the same rights and protections and everything that you have. No, I don't. You're not a citizen.
Yeah.
You busted through the border.
Mhm. Even if it was a family member that came to your house. I mean, you just don't come in and move in the house. It's the same concept. These people, are coming in, thinking they could just become part of the United States. It's just, if somebody, like you said, somebody comes into my home, you're not going to just hang out and watch TV with me when you break into my house. You're going to go. You're going to get out of here either by the law, or you're going to get out and go back to where you came from and get out of my house. Yeah. But even if they were, invited by somebody or whatever, they're just, it's still not okay. There's certain boundaries that you have to abide
Correct.
by. And, I do feel bad for those people that just want a better life, and they're coming here and they don't go the right way, and or maybe they've been told or whatever they've been told, especially with the Biden administration, where they were told just come on over and we'll pay for everything, and you can stay in a fancy
Mhm.
hotel and our citizens will pay for it. You know, I'm sorry they told you that. Please don't do
Right.
that. But and I pray for you. I hope you have a better life. And that you can maybe come over here legally and have a life. I don't know. Sometimes I wonder if it's even better here, but
Right.
depending on where you're coming from, right? Because a wall works both ways. We can't just show up at your country and say, "Hey, come take care of us," either. It
Right.
may come to that someday. I don't know. You may have to get out of here. I don't know, but yeah, we need to do things properly, and it doesn't mean we have to be mean and put handcuffs on them, lock them up, put them in a cage, whatever. But they do need to go home, and they need to be deported if they're not citizens. We're not
Correct.
paying the bill anymore. You know, yeah,
Right. Well, you brought up
and they're good
kind of
people.
a right. You brought up kind of a good point that things are not. I forget your exact word, but things are not that great here either. Saying that I want to
Yeah,
just come over for a better life is not a reason to come over and get citizenship. Everybody wants a better life. You know, I want a better life. I'm sure you can look at things in your life and say, I want a better life. That
yeah,
doesn't
and
entitle us to a better life somewhere.
right,
We have to take care of our home first. And it's a little tiring to hear people say that we are not compassionate. Americans as a whole are very compassionate. And I know with what I'm saying, I may be coming across as not having compassion. And it's not about not having compassion. I can have compassion, but that doesn't mean that I can afford to have you here. In fact, about a month ago, I had someone that I've known for years asked to move in and stay here for a while. And my compassion had me consider it all night. And then I was like, man, we just can't. How do I make this work? Here's the makeup of my house. Here's the finances. Here's this and that. And here's my schedule. And I'm going to have to drive this person around and to work and back. And I'm already doing that for some of my family members. And I just had to weigh everything out. But it's my compassion that had me up all night weighing it out And the next day, logic had to kind of set in over emotion and say, it's not the best for my family. And I had to message his friend back and say, look, as much as I wish I could help you with this aspect of it, I just can't. For the sake of my family, it's not going to be a good decision for us. And I hate to have to tell you that, but my family has to be my priority. Now, if there's something else that I can do to help you, I will be more than happy. But I just can't put this over my family. So, how do we relate that to the immigrant situation? We can have compassion, but we have people in America already that are barely eating. You
Yeah.
know, if you're looking at going hungry and stuff, we already have a large population here in America that's in that situation. So I can have compassion that you might be in that situation in your home country. And it doesn't mean I don't feel for you. But at some point, you got to stay home and try to fix your own home. You can't just crash my home and not try to fix your own. You know, I have a responsibility to fix my home. I can't say, well, I think my home is bad, so I'm just going to crash your home. I think it's better over there, so I'm going to go. We have a responsibility to try to fix our own home, you know. But then beyond that, um, we have to look at the people in our own country that are citizens that we owe first. And I think we have just become such a country of bleeding hearts led by emotion. There's no logic in most of the arguments that I hear. It's just emotion. Well, what about this? Well, what about that? And it's all emotional arguments. And at some point, facts have to factor in. At some point, logic has to factor in, and we've got to fix our own home. Just like I think the immigrants need to try to fix their own home, we got to fix ours. We can have compassion. We can yet say yes to some people, but you got to fill out the paperwork, come through the port of entry, do it right. And we can have enough compassion to say yes to some of them, but we just can't let everybody come. And especially, and that includes the women just coming over, popping out babies to say, oh, you can't send me home. My baby's a citizen. So now you're stuck with
Yeah.
me.
Hmm. Well,
No,
and yeah, and the other side of the coin, are you going to come here and pay my bills? Are you coming here to pay my bills? Well, don't come here expect me to pay your bills. If you want to come and take care of me, come on over. No, I'm just saying, but it becomes an issue when people are coming over here just to get in here and get the free money. That's not. We can have compassion without being stupid and being rugs and being walked on all the time. It's just like Trump is trying to
correct.
change all that stuff. Even in the Europe or over there, and we're constantly giving them our money. It's not reciprocal,
Right,
and you can't keep supporting a government that's doing wrong by their citizens either. At some point they have to stand up and do what's right. Can we do anything about? Well, we can't in the situation we're in now because we've gotten so downtrodden. We don't even have military to defend ourselves. We need to be able to, it's like you have as a mom, what we do all the time. Here's an example of compassion. We take care of everybody else and not ourselves. And then what happens? Then mom gets sick and mom can't take care of anybody. And then what good is it, right? It's the same
correct.
way. If we can get back to where we were, where we're doing so well, and people want to apply to come in, like he said, people that want to better their life and not be a burden on the United States. Now, if I have compassion and I want to send some money to Sri Lanka or whatever, for orphanage or whatever it is, as long as you verify these things. A lot of people are just scamming people. We know that. I mean, that's really hard. It makes it really hard to do anything for anybody when the other people have ruined it, right?
Right.
So we can have compassion. We do have compassion. We're compassionate people, mothers especially. We have a lot of compassion, So and people take advantage of that. People will For instance, witches, they'll lie and say that they're a Christian, and and ask for money, and do these scams, these NGOs, and do all these scams, and we give money. We're some of the most compassionate people in the world. So to say that we don't have compassion, my heart breaks. And I'm sure there's a lot of really good people here. I know I've met people that are illegals that are good people, and I would love for them to be able to stay. Please do what's right. Get it straightened out. If you're a good hard worker and you're here working on somebody's ranch and your green cards run out or whatever, that's a whole different situation. We do appreciate people that are hardworking and that want to come and help. And like I said, you're not coming in to pay for my stuff. I'm not asking you to come into the country and give me okay, well, you come in, but you've got to take care of me, you got to be my slave or something like that. Well, that's what you're asking of us. We have to be a slave every day to pay the bills. And so same for everyone. Anyway.
Right. Yeah, I agree. It's uh, this is sort of on a little different topic here, but you know, uh, you kind of brought up that they're not coming and paying our bills, and we're just sending money overseas to other countries and all this stuff, and we have a government that just takes and takes and takes. And I've heard lately, um, a lot of the Democrat congressmen and women saying Congress has the power of the purse. We're the most powerful branch. Well, there's not supposed to be a branch that's the most powerful. They are supposed to be a checks and balances. But, for them to say we're the most powerful, it's like, oh no. That tells me right there, you think you're someone and somewhere that you are not, because it's if you're the most powerful, then you're basically saying there's no checks and balances. Um, correct, Ruth.
Yeah, well, and that's the same thing that's going on with the United Nations, and that's why Trump said, "No, you guys have been treating us unfairly. We pay for your wars, we pay for everything, and then you want to charge us if the reciprocal trade." He was talking about the tariffs. You're charging us a huge tariff, and then you want us to defend you and give you money, and we're not allowed to charge you a tariff back. He said, "No, we're doing this straight across the board now. You charge us a tariff, we're going to charge you the same tariff back." So that's the way it needs to be. Again, not saying that we can't ever help anybody, but we've just been, dumping it, and
Right,
that's not. And then we're in debt. We're the ones holding the debt, right? We're supporting them.
right,
It's like me taking out a credit card just to help you raise your family, and supporting you, and the debt is on me, and you're just sitting back, eating
right.
steak every day or something. But,
Uh,
and
Daniel
that's kind of
Boone, correct. Yeah, no, you're right. Uh, the other thing I was going to say about uh, Congress having the power of the purse, whether it's sending money to other countries or, allowing all the immigrants to just flood our borders and, like you said, putting them. We have people on the street, and we're putting the illegal immigrants up in five-star hotels in New York, and they're not happy with any of it. The food, so they had to start getting EBT cards and all that. Like, how ungrateful that you break the law coming in the way you do. We feed you, house you in hotels that I can tell you most Americans probably cannot afford. you know, um, and you're not happy with it. A lot of them, not all of them. So I don't want to put them all under the same category. There are some coming over trying to work hard, and even though they broke the law, they're not trying to commit further acts of crime being here. They're trying to contribute and be a decent person. But you got a large group of them as well that are not, and they're committing all kinds of crimes once they're here. But the ungratefulness of them to come over and say, oh, this food's not good enough. This isn't good enough. That's not good enough. You know, It's like, are you kidding me? It's
Well,
ship them back immediately. But here's the thing about Congress. Here's the thing about Congress. Davy Crockett gave a speech. I don't know how many people watching this know about the Georgetown fires that happened in the 1700s, in the Georgetown community of DC. And there were a lot of widows and children. And Congress wanted to start taking money from the citizens to give to these widows. Davy Crockett gave a speech to Congress stating that that was an abuse of their power, even though they had the power of the purse, that was an abuse and it was theft. That Congress did not work for that money. The citizens did.
yeah, it's we the people. We the
And
people
he
need to make
said,
those decisions, not just the Congress. Yeah.
exactly. You cannot
And
just come up with everything you want and tell people, oh, and we're going to take your money for this. We're going to take your money for that. We aren't asked about all this money going. Congress is just coming up with all these reasons to tax us more and take more money. We were not set up that way. We are supposed to be a country of the people, for the people, and we have become a country that is completely run by the government and they dictate to us. We are supposed to dictate to them. They are supposed to ask us and represent us. I can tell you, none of my representatives here in Kentucky have asked any Kentuckians if we want our money going to pay to count how many koi fish are off the coast of the Philippines. We haven't been asked for any of that. I don't remember a questionnaire going out to ask us if we want our money going to Israel or Ukraine or, I mean, I don't care where it's going. We have not been asked that. They are just coming up with all these reasons they need to spend our money. It's not their money to spend. It's ours. And
right,
that's what Davy Crockett was saying to Congress in the 1700s. If you pass this law, to help them out because you have compassion for them. And he talked about compassion. We can have compassion. If you have compassion for them, take up a donation and give them. But if you pass this as law, it is theft. We did not earn this money. The citizens earned their money. They went out and worked and earned that paycheck. We did not earn it. If we take from their paychecks and give these widows, it is theft, and it opens the door in the future for us to be able to take from the citizens for anything we decide is legitimate enough. And that's where we are. We are no longer run by the people, we are run by this group of elected officials.
I
Go
gotta
ahead,
get me one
Karen.
of those. Anyway,
It is
this is not
awesome.
pretty comfortable. Anyway, I wanted to touch base. We were talking earlier about the hotels and stuff. Who's going to put me up in the nursing home? Who's going to take care of me in my old age? Because all of our money is being spent somewhere else. We have the Social Security issue. We have the taxation issue. I mean, even on our properties, we need to, we don't need to have all this tax, and we can't even afford to live. So, I mean, how can we help others if we can't, afford our own property? They, of course, that goes into the 15-minute city thing and all that stuff too. Hopefully, Lord, we won't be there. But yeah, we need to be able to afford our own things here and be able to take care of our own, and be generous in our own communities where we know where the money's going. You just give people blank checks and then you see what happens. People, um, you know, they're not responsible with their money if you just give it to them. And I mean, kids that have grown up in these families that are entitled, they don't even have any idea or respect for anything, where it comes from and how hard you have to work. You want to grow up with a good work ethic, and be able to, the Bible says if you don't work, you don't eat. So
Right.
I'm sorry, but you need to participate. So
I agree.
Ruth, if you on there and you can hear us, how are we coming through? Because we have a little bit of lag here. We're just trying to work through all of our technical difficulties. So if you can give us a little comment and let us know how we're coming through,
Yeah,
that would be great.
we talked about that before the show because with that lag, I would think she was taking a break. So I'd start talking and realize she was not done. So then it's coming across like I'm just interrupting her or vice versa. And that's what we were talking about. I said it just got to be so much that I just kind of checked out and let her and Carl do it because with three of us on the show, it was really bad, and I didn't want to
It
just
was
leave the
rough
show,
last
but
week.
it was rough. So tonight,
Yeah.
I told her we're just going to have to pay more attention. I think it's gone smoother with two of us. Um,
Mhm.
but that's why I'm like, at times, I'm like, go ahead, Carrie.
I
Just
hold up a sign. It's your turn.
hold up paddles.
Oh, yeah, we could do that. We could get paddles and pause, go. That would work.
That's funny. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
Well,
Let me see.
I don't know if she's there because we haven't gotten any comments from her. If anybody's listening,
She
I don't
gave
know.
us the
This is
light.
just the Facebook chat, or is this the Rumble
Um,
chat also?
I can't. I think Rumble comes through on here. I think Carl said he has it to where Rumble comments will come through. Nobody ever really comments on Rumble though. They usually just watch, which is fine. We'd like them to comment if they want. Yeah, Ruth is here. Um,
Yeah, yeah.
but
Thank you, Ruth.
we do have a few people on Rumble watching. I just pull Rumble up and I can see, a couple, but Um, yeah, there for a while we couldn't get Rumble comments on here, but I believe Carl said he got that straightened out.
Ruth,
But
do you have any comments? She's a,
I'm going to tell you, Ruth is awesome. She's been watching. Well, it was the prior show, but she was with us for a while, and she's an awesome lady. Has a lot of wisdom too. That's what I love is having a good community where, we may not always agree 100%. I mean, you're not going to find two people anywhere that agree 100%. If you do, somebody's fake. But, I think for the most part, we've had a great community of people that, we really try to know what we're all talking about. Even the people in the comment section, I've noticed. I've been doing a show for the Bill of Rights for 3 years, 3.5 years, somewhere in that ballpark. And the people in the comments, most of them, you know, they're not dumb people. They're pretty wise, and it's been great because I've learned a lot and have grown. It's just been a great experience to get to know a lot of the people that watch.
Ruth Ruth made a comment. Welcome wagon. Do you remember the welcome wagon? Ruth, you must be as old as me. Yeah. No, we're probably not going to get the welcome wagon when we show up. We're not going to get a hotel room for free and a check and, and food and whatever else we want or need. No, I don't think so. I think you got to come with your
Yeah,
own money and buy your own hotel room. I don't think anybody else is going to do that for you in any other country. I could be wrong. If anybody out there knows about a free country to go visit, I'm open to it. Let me know.
right,
If I'm
right.
wrong.
Oh yeah,
Yes,
especially if they want to pay
very,
all my bills.
yeah, it would be nice.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. Put me up in a 5-star hotel, and I have
Ah,
cleaning service and people cooking for me, and you know, uh, it's
yeah, I didn't think
it's
I
a
could
real
travel.
burden though.
Yeah, I could travel then. I could go travel places if they just paid the bill for me. If they wouldn't
Right.
mind, me showing up and I'll be like, hey, I'm here, so now you have to take care of me, and this is what I want.
I agree, Ruth. Well, and think about the burden
How
that it takes
ridiculous
on
does
the
that sound?
citizens.
But yet, go ahead. Sorry.
Oh no, you're fine. No, I was just gonna say Bruce said it's sickening. And I was just agreeing with her that it is very sickening, and the burden that it puts on the citizens, it that shouldn't happen. I'm not saying that we should turn everybody away, but we can't just open the border either, because how many people around the world would flood our country more so, if, there's some people that don't come just out of fear. Even hearing Biden, I have a good friend in Uganda who was saying, I know Biden's saying come, 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 but he was still nervous about coming, because he said, I know what the laws are. Even though he's saying this, I know the law says something else. And he wanted to come to school here in the States. And, but he said, I'm just too scared to try to come like these other people because I know it's still not what the law says. So I'm sure there's a lot of people besides him who wanted to come, but didn't for the same concerns of, even though the administration's saying this, the law says this. So how am I going to fall in there? Because they're not going to be in this administration forever. So what happens after that? You know, um, but we got to think about our children and grandchildren too, and the burden that we're putting on them financially. I mean, our babies are being born into debt to this country. And, like I said, we're supposed to be a country of the people for the people. And we have allowed the government to just completely take over. And, they're getting to where they're micromanaging our lives more and more and more. I tell you what, if again, let's go with the neighbor scenario. If my neighbor knocks on the door and says, hey, I've been sick for the last couple of weeks, my paycheck is short and I can't pay my mortgage. So, what I'm going to do is take 25% of y'all's income this month to help pay my mortgage. I, I honestly don't know. I mean, I want to say I'd react this way, but I might be so stunned that I react this way. But I can tell you, he's not going to get a good reaction. The best reaction might be me laughing, thinking he's joking, But when I realize that he's serious, it he's lost his mind. If he thinks he's going to
Yeah.
walk over and say there's a circumstance for him to just tell me I'm going to take 25% of your check. Yet we allow the government to just tell us all the time how much they're taking from us for this and that and the other, and the debt just grows. Now, we can all come up with a certain amount that we may feel like is justifiable spending, and we don't mind our tax money going to. But that's not what's happening. What's happening is we got a group of people in Congress just coming up with up to million things that they want to do, and they don't come to the people to see what we think. They're just telling
Yeah.
us this is what we're going to take and what we're going to take it for, like it or not. Well, that's a dictatorship.
Mhm. Well, and like you said, if the neighbor comes over, it'd be one thing if we saw that he had a need and we went over and tried to help him that month because we could see that he needed help. But coming over demanding it, it's just like it sounds so ridiculous for me to show up in another country and ask them to take care of us. But yet, our citizens and stuff are being manipulated by the media, I guess, because if you think about it, how ridiculous does that sound that I could get to travel and go to every country and get in there and get a hotel and food and all that stuff paid for me? It's not going to happen. And if I told somebody I was going to do that, I'm just going to go there and ask for their help and just go wherever I want to go. They would look at me like I'm ridiculous, but that's what they're saying it's okay for them to do it to us. And so we have to look at it realistically. That's what we're doing. And it's just not going to work. If we did that for everybody, then where does that leave us? Again, we're
Right.
paying taxes, we're trying to rub two pennies together here. We can't even, and And so now you expect to take the last two pennies I have, and then I'm sitting here empty-handed, and you're in a hotel. I can't do that for you.
Right.
I can have compassion and help you in some way. Maybe I can get you a gallon of gas to get farther down the road, or here's a drink of water, or we can help with things that we're able to help with. But at this point, our country isn't even able to help you. We are living on credit. We don't have any money. It's not real money. They're just printing more and putting us more in debt. So who are we helping? I mean, we certainly are not going to ever get out of it if we just continue. It's not logical to keep doing what we're doing.
Right.
And I think in the community sense, if my neighbor needs some food, he better ask me. I'll be mad if they're going hungry over there. So
Right.
there's my compassion. I can see that there's a need. I know he's a veteran. I know that he's not just wasting money over there, and I would help him, right? So that's where we need to focus are helping each other locally and staying in a community and not just turning all of our money over to the government for them to decide who's going to get it and who's not. That's up to me if I want to help
Right.
my neighbor. I should. I mean, biblically, we're supposed to love our neighbors as ourselves.
Right.
So if we're doing that, and that's another issue with the government, running the church and the church running the government.
Well,
backwards. Church was supposed to be the one helping people, not the government, and government was never to be involved in. Yeah. So.
well, here's the other thing. You notice everybody wants to scream separation of church and state, when it suits them, but yet church and state are very much intermingled. And, church and state, the separation of it was, not meant that. Like I hear people say, your religious beliefs should not factor into your vote if you're a congressman or a senator. I've even heard people bash, oh, these Christians out there voting against abortion. Well, I know a lot of Christians who are voting for pro choice as well because that's how they feel they should vote. But, they're saying separation of church and state. So if you're voting on an issue, your religious beliefs should be separated from that. And you should only look at the legal aspect of it, taking your religious beliefs out. Well, that's a little hard to do. And if you look back at our founding members, most of them belonged, except for one, most of them belong to some religious affiliation. It may not all be the same affiliation, but they did belong to some religious affiliation, which helped to form our country and a lot of the freedoms that we have, and also help progress the future. I'm sorry, the country throughout the future generations to correct some of the things that were being done that were still wrong. So we were not a perfect country. We never will be, but it's a lot of the Christian beliefs and the Christians who were saying, hey, this has been going on in the country. That's not a good thing. We need to correct and fix this and turn it around, and evolve to be better, and continually strive to be better. Um, the separation of church and state originally, that's not a law or anything. That was stated in a letter written by one of the founding members. And it was written referring to the government not interfering in our religious beliefs, hence, us having religious freedom in the Constitution. It was not saying that the church or your religious beliefs cannot influence your decision if you're in a government position, etc. It was to solidify our religious freedom and that the government cannot impose it. However, today that has been twisted to where they want it completely separate and someone's religious beliefs should not factor in at all. Well, where does our moral compass come from? Even if you don't believe in God, a lot of the principles there, a lot of people, I mean, it breaks my heart, but I even have a couple children who say, I don't believe in God, or I don't know if he really exists. I struggle with that. Um, but yet they still agree that a lot of the principles that we're supposed to live by are very beneficial to our lives and that they're good. So they can accept a lot of those principles for their life, to be good, decent people and build some kind of foundation on them, in spite of the fact that they don't necessarily believe in God. Um, but we're now in a time where people want to wipe all that out and basically just say it's just a big free for all. Well, then where do you draw any kind of morality from? So
Right.
it's
But you got
kind
to
of an
remember, yeah, go ahead.
but
Yeah, anyway, I was going to comment on that because you got to remember that freedom of choice means freedom of choice. So they can choose to worship Satan or whatever religion they want to. And so, but it was intended to keep the government out. You're right. So what
Mhm.
happens is, so that doesn't necessarily set a moral compass. I mean, you've got other people voting for other things like they pro-abortion because that's part of their ritual and their sacrifices and all that stuff. So, but we got to remember that the scripture gave us a choice. We do have a freedom of choice. We have a choice to do what's right or what's wrong. And so that's kind of a weird situation, when you want it to be a Christian country, you've got freedom of choice. That means freedom of choice, whether it's good or bad. So there's some people going back and forth. There's different thought processes on that. Can we go back to it being a Christian nation? But the Constitution gives us freedom of choice. So, but without choice, without freedom of choice, you have communism, which is basically Satanism. So
Right.
we can't dictate what everybody does. That's we can make an environment where that it is conducive for good moral behavior, and the laws can be based on Christian values. Those things, the government can be based on Christian values. And I think that's why we have such a great country, and that's why people want to come here, because they were based on some Christian values. Again, we cannot dictate what everybody does in their home, but if you're harming somebody, some of these Satan worshipers, you've got satanic ritual abuse and stuff like that.
I'm
That
sorry,
clearly
Carl.
did you did I do something wrong?
No, Carl commented in the comments. I said, I'm sorry, Carl.
Anyway, so you have the different the values there. I lost what I was saying now.
You were talking
Carl.
about it's okay to be founded on Christian principles, but we
Oh
still
yeah.
have
So
freedom of choice.
right. Our laws need to be based on good moral character and things like that. I mean, clearly, if you're sacrificing children or humans or doing awful things like that because you worship a different god than we do, which is not a real god, but then there's got to be laws to prevent certain things. You can't just go around killing people because they don't follow your religion. So that is, one thing. If you're in a religion that tells you you have to kill everybody else that is not in your religion, don't come to America. you know, we have freedom of choice, but we also have freedom of choice within a moral compass of the law that we have put into place that were based on Christian values, and that's what we want to keep. There's some countries that it's legal to marry children and stuff, and we're not doing that. And I pray that we never get to that point. Right now, we're dealing with a lot of pedophilia, a lot of satanic ritual abuse. We've got stuff going on all around us that we're not even aware of. So we have to, yeah, we can have a show on that another time. But yeah, so definitely the Christian morals and values need to be in. People in the church need to vote based on those if they're voting, and we definitely need to pray for that for our nation. We need to The Bible says if we shall turn away from our sins and repent and ask for forgiveness, he will heal the land. I believe that's also healing our country at the same time. And I think because our moral compass between Hollywood and everything that has corrupted us so bad has caused a lot of problems for us. And if we can get back, I don't know, because God, every time in the Bible when it got this bad, it was like wipe it out, start over from scratch. And we know what the scripture says about Revelation and what's going to happen. So it looks like a
Right.
lot of that is taking place now, and whether it's orchestrated or not, it's still happening. And
Exactly.
yeah.
Yeah, I agree with you. I think, even I know a lot of people say we're not considered a Christian country anymore. Um, I'm in the middle of it. I think I see so much in people and in the country today that I kind of agree with that. My hesitation with that um, is that we were still a country that was founded on Christian principle. Um, and no matter what direction we go in, you can't go back in time and change our founding. And I think that it is our founding of being built on Christian principle and the Christian principle that has progressed us away from a lot of the bad, horrible things in our history. You know, had it not been for a lot of the religious beliefs of a lot of people here, some of those things may not have been corrected. It's the people who had those beliefs um, that said, this isn't good, this isn't moral, such as slavery. Even some of the forefathers came to the knowledge once they were here to have freedom to pursue their religion through reading the Bible, came to different understandings and freed their slaves. And those are historical things that can be looked into for sure, for anybody who questions. But it was that religious freedom that helped open their eyes, because they were no longer in a country that was dictating religion and beliefs and things that way. And it's the citizens who understood that God said all men are created equal, that slavery is not okay. Did it happen in biblical days? Yes, but not with God's condoning it. It was people choosing to do certain behaviors, but God condemns it, So it's a lot of that brought us forward. So I'm kind of in the middle on saying whether or not we're a Christian country. I also agree freedom of choice. I think even back then, when most people would agree that we were more of a Christian country, people still had choice. Hi, Bill. I don't think the choice was taken from them. Um,
Oh,
and that is an important aspect. Like you said, I even hear that with the abortion argument, though. A lot of people say I don't agree with it, but I believe the woman should have a choice. And I'm like, well, here's my personal stand on it. You have the right to your belief, but here is my personal stand. That baby is a child. So I have a 5-year-old. If he gets on my nerves like he did today, and I'm telling you, my son was pushing it today, do I get to go kill him because he's not convenient to me? Well, no, y'all would
no, you
charge me
can't
with
do
murder. I have the choice. I can choose to not murder him and love him and just deal with the behavior like a good, decent mother, or I can choose to lose my cool and see him in such a negative way and not worth life that I go murder him. I have that choice. But if I choose this route, I'm going to reap the blessings. If I choose this route, I'll be charged with murder and facing prison. So I have choice. That's how I see abortion. It's not legal for me to go kill my 5-year-old. It should not be legal for you to go kill your child just because it's not born yet and it's not convenient or whatever excuse. Now you have the choice to still go get an abortion, but then you should have to deal with the consequences. I don't think murder of a life should be legal and a choice for someone legally. Just as me Doing that to my 5-year-old is not a legal choice. It's a moral choice I can make, but it's not a legal choice I can make. So I get where people are saying, but it's her body. Well, no, it's, can y'all close that closet, please?
You have
Instead,
you have a right to go get your tubes tied if you want to. That's your body. You should do that. Don't continue to have abortions. Go get your tubes tied. That's your body. You can do that to your body. But that body inside of you is another life, and so that is murder.
right,
Unfortunately, people have been told that it's not a human yet. It's this, it's that. But life begins at a conception, and that's where we've been deceived. That part is, and if people are saying they don't want to be in a Christian country, this isn't a Christian country. It shouldn't be based on Christian stuff. We shouldn't have Christianity involved in the government and everything. Take a look at these other countries where it's not there. And if are you saying it's okay to marry a child? Is that what you want for this country? Because they don't look at the reality of what comes from the morals being taken away. The Christian values being taken away. There's a consequence for that. I mean, the scripture is very clear on that too. So
correct.
I mean, you
Yeah,
got to look at it at a practice. Yeah,
if I'm pregnant and go have an abortion, I am stopping a heartbeat. I am
yeah. And then
stopping
there's things,
brainwaves, but it's
you know,
not my heart, it's not my brain, so it's not my body. The life might be in my body, but it's not my body that is being discarded. It is the life of,
right.
and even, we hear with COVID, oh, trust the science, trust the science. Well, with abortion, it's don't trust the science. It's not a
Yeah,
life. It's not a life until it's born or whatever. But then we got states like Tim Walz's state, who did they? I'm not sure, Bill. Maybe you can answer this. Did they actually pass it to be able to do partial birth abortions? And then there's some states that have been, yes, very much so. And then 11
I think
children,
California.
yeah, that are
I think
trying
California.
to do abortion up to 30 days after birth.
Hmm. That I think that's California mostly. Yeah. But
Maine, I believe
and then
it's Maine
you
is another one.
yeah, you were talking about slavery earlier. Well, now we don't. Everybody's a slave. That's what we've
Mhm.
become, is a slave to our government. If you don't think you're a slave, then stop doing, stop going, paying them the money and see what happens. They come take everything you have. So, by coercion, we are slaves. We feel like we have this illusion of choice, right? That we are not slaves, but we are. We're still slaves. And I think that's what we were trying to get away from. I think that was the whole Tea Party thing, where they were dumping the tea in the water because of the taxation. And we have taxation without representation, just like you were talking about. They're sending that money that we're paying into taxes over to Ukraine. We don't want to pay for Ukraine, and we don't
Right.
want to pay for people telling us we have to teach our kids critical race theory in the school boards and all those things that we. My property taxes mostly goes to the school board. What does the school board do? Well, let's look into that. But we should have a show
Right.
on the school board. Yeah, but so we are slaves to the system that we live in now, and so we just traded from having people that were slaves to everybody being slaves now.
Right.
It's pretty much
That's why I say
up
we're
because
no longer a country of the people for the people. They started really dumbing us down in the education department, you know, and it was a slow, I say slow because it's been happening since, that formal education was developed in 1922, 23 ballpark, but there was more education back then, and they've just taken more and more and more away. Yeah,
Bill
they
made a
did, Bill.
comment I want to address. The school board, no, it's the Department of Education that got wiped out, I believe. It
Yeah, the
wasn't the
Department
school
of
board.
Education.
But I would like to see the school boards gotten rid of too. Maybe that will go with it. I don't know.
Yeah. Well,
I believe Trump, and that was a national. Yeah, school board was created by John Rockefeller. I don't know who created it, but they're they're not on my favorite list. I can say that.
yeah,
But
it
the
was
Department of
developed in
Education.
19, it was developed between
Can you hear me?
1922 and 1923 by John Rockefeller. And
Okay.
there's a group of other elites. Bill, it was about five of the elite people, correct,
Yeah, to get their
um,
books in there, right?
that started deciding what was going to be taught and what wasn't. And it's like, how does one
Mm.
small group of people get to decide um, what can be taught and what cannot, and what version of, if they say, oh, well, we're going to teach the Civil War. Well, they still get to decide what parts of it get taught. So a lot gets left out. Even going back to the slavery, we learn about slavery in school. I think everybody learns about it, but we don't learn about the black slave owners. And there was over 3,800 legal black slave owners who are very wealthy in this country. But even today, what do we hear? The evil white man narrative. And if you tell them, oh no, there were legal black slave owners, just under 4,000, people think you've lost your mind. So the Department of Education, they pick and choose. They might say this topic is okay as a whole, but they're going to pick and choose what we're taught. There's a narrative behind it all, and it's to keep us divided, upset with each other. Because if you and I are looking at each other as the enemy, Carrie, we don't really see what's going on around us. And that's what the government does. And they are trying to constantly persuade us into going this direction if they want us here. Oh no, we want them here, so let's start swaying them here with information. And it was never
Yeah, they want to
really legal to do, but it still happened in the government where they could put out false information. It just wasn't legal as such, but it didn't stop him. Obama came in 2015, I believe. Is Bill, was it 2015 or 2013? I want to say 2015. Obama came in and passed a law that makes it legal for the government to use propaganda against its citizens. So that's something
that
else
was
Obama did.
yeah, that happened on 9/11. They took away our Fourth Amendment rights too. They it used to be that we could put out propaganda legally, but not to our own citizens. So they were using other countries to
Yeah,
deceive us,
2015.
and they were doing that back and forth. But they just made it easier now, so they can just do it to us as well.
Right,
And yeah, he said the Department of Education was created by Rockefeller. That's what Trump just took down. That was in the
right,
national level because it really has no business being at the national level. It was never meant to be there. So it's going to go back to the state level. We really need to start looking at our states because he's putting a lot of power back to the states, which our states again are already corrupt, and we have state problems as well. So we need to start going down to the state level. If we can keep going down the ladder and get down to the local level, we'll be doing okay. Fixing stuff. So we
right.
need to doge all the way down to the dog catcher,
I
then we'll be all
agree.
right. It's just corrupt.
Absolutely.
Yeah,
Yeah,
the Patriot Act. That's what took away our rights. They were able
yeah.
to spy on their own citizens and stuff, and that's why we have all this surveillance and stuff, even in the street level. And yeah,
Carrie, I just want to make a
don't
quick
need to
announcement to
spy for
everybody.
anybody.
I'm
Hmm?
sorry. I
I can't hear
apologize.
you.
That lag. I just want to let everybody know who's currently watching that tonight will be the last Friday night for Life Unfiltered. I'll announce it again at the end of the show. Um, but we will be moving the show to Tuesday nights, where I was on the prior show, starting 9 p.m. Eastern Time, 8 p.m. Central Time, and we'll still do an hour and a half. So instead of before where we did 9 to 11, we'll do 9 to 10:30. But yes, this is our last Friday night. Starting next week, we'll be back on Tuesdays, and I'll put a post up, and I'm sure Carl will put something up on Bill of Rights to remind people. So I just wanted to throw that out there real quick. So I apologize for interrupting there.
Are you're frozen again? should I, well, I maybe doing the Friday night slot as with Carl said. So I don't know what, if that's going to happen yet or not. We're trying to work on that. So
Correct, Bill. I just read your last comment. That's what Trump's trying to do is put more of the power back with the people. It's not supposed to be the federal government running everything. I talked a little bit about that closer to the beginning of the show and how when we were originally founded, we were supposed to be a country of the people for the people where we basically tell the government what we want. Now, of course, they can't appease every citizen in the country. I mean, that's impossible. But they are supposed to be, finding out what the people in their districts and states, are primarily wanting. And that's what they're supposed to go to Congress and the Senate to represent. But I don't think we have congressmen and senators that are really going and representing their people. I think they're going and representing what they want and saying, well, I'm representing my district, I'm representing my people. Well, I don't remember our congressmen and senators coming to their states and asking the people, what do you guys want? I'm getting ready to go take this vote, and I'm up there to represent you. What do you guys want? I don't remember them asking. I don't remember any kind of conversation with their constituents or anything. They just show up and vote. It seemed like according to their own wishes and stuff. And that's not how it's supposed to run. They're not truly representing their constituents if they are not out there finding out what the constituents want. And if the constituents say, I want A, and you go and fight for B, well, you're still not representing your constituents. If A goes against what you want, but that's what your constituents want, then you go and vote A because you represent the people. You don't represent yourself and what you want. And I just think we have become so corrupt, and I don't know how much progress we're actually going to make. I think we're going to make a lot of progress in the next 4 years, but how much, I'm not sure because the corruption just runs so deep.
yeah, power and money corrupt, and where there's both, it's really hard. Um, Even like as a delegate, when I went to Houston, we put forth priorities. Those same priorities for the Republican Party are still there. Nothing's changed. So they're not looking at what the people want. They're trying to manipulate what the people want to change it to and put stuff in it. No more omnibus, no more all that shoved in there
Right.
and hidden stuff that's in a language that people can't understand. Plain English, the average lay person should be able to understand. It should be one thing, and so people can look and see what the ramifications of that passing would do. We've put forth all these resolutions, and nothing has changed. So they're not looking at the will of the people. They're looking how to manipulate the will of the people and how to get votes and how to get in there so that they can use their power to corrupt and get money. And and it doesn't matter.
Right.
They do want to keep us divided: the Republican, the Democrat, the left, the right, the Christian, the non-Christian. They got to keep you divided, and so that's what they do. They divide us up, and it doesn't really matter because even if you're a Republican and you're going into a Democratic city, you're going to run as a Democrat because you're not going to make it as a Republican. And they've already decided long before you get to the point of what you're looking at, those candidates. They've already decided long before that who's going to get in, and they pay for those endorsements. So if you want to get in, you got to pay for an endorsement. There's all kinds of ways they get money, and they're getting favors and stuff in the background. These people are corrupt. They're corrupt.
Right.
You should be doing it out of the goodness of your heart for your country, and instead you're doing it to get rich and to treat the people of the United States badly, because that's what you're doing. You're robbing from the citizens. And so we have, unfortunately, we have that corruption all the way down to the bottom. You can see it sometimes, even just when you have like a young rookie officer, they get a little bit of power and it gets to their head, you know?
Right.
And so, yeah, that's why I think we're supposed to pray for our leaders to keep them humble, and they shouldn't be in those positions for so long. We put in for term limits. I don't know how many times that's been a priority, for the Republican Party, and yet that doesn't happen. The term limits would limit the amount of corruption that they could do in the that period of time. They don't have time to put a lot of things into place and stuff, and because again, you're supposed to be doing it for the goodness of your country, not to get money and get rich. And you can see that people are going into politics and coming out billionaires, millionaires. It's like, wait a
Right.
minute, that job only pays 150,000 a year. How did you get that much money in a year? So
Right.
follow the money and the power. It'll lead you to corruption every time. And yeah, the
Absolutely.
corruption, yes, even in the
Yeah.
smallest towns, very much in the smallest towns too. I'm dealing with a lot of that. So
Hmm.
Canada is their new prime minister's central bank guy also built yeah. Yeah, they're so tied in together. It's all these elites and stuff. And they don't worship the same God as us, by the way. They worship a different God.
Correct.
Not yeah,
I
not good.
don't think that you were talking about term limits. I don't know how much term limits are going to actually help, though, if we just vote in someone like the bad person that just had to leave. I mean, look at AOC or
Well,
Maxine Waters. You can put a term limit in of 4 years and they can get maybe another 4 years if they just got voted in, but they can't run again after that, maybe. So they're gone. If you're just going to vote in another Maxine Waters and another AOC just with a different face, what good did that term limit really do? Because you voted in
well,
basically the same person, you know.
you're assuming we have the illusion that we are voting for them. First of all, we're not. It would be harder for them. I mean, anything that would, remaining in that position. Look at the power and control that Pelosi has acquired. Their family lines.
Right.
They are all the same people in there all the time. We would have to, they would have to find a fresh new face to put in. And so, I mean, term limits are a good thing, especially when you have somebody bad in there and they get seated in there and you can't get them out. So at least we'd have a chance at getting somebody that's good to replace them. Again, we have to go back down to the very core level of how it's set up and run, with the two-party system and how they just put whoever they want in place. So there is that issue. It's again another issue. I mean, there's so many things that need to be fixed. But starting with term limits is a good thing. I think term limits need to be there, and I think that people um, that's a one step into stopping a little bit of the corruption anyway. There
Yeah.
was other priorities that were put into place as well that didn't get put through, like the property taxes. Taking away the money. You're talking about the purse with Congress. If we start pulling back the money, that kind of takes away some of the corruption. But we are the
Right.
money. We are the money. Our goods and services and us, our labor, that is the money. The money is just a piece of paper. It doesn't really mean anything. If we all stopped, using money and we just used goods and services and did what we did, many years ago, I mean, yeah, you're not going to get your dollar store stuff from China anymore. That's kind of a problem for people, but we have to work and do our own thing. And that's what Trump is talking about doing too, is bringing the productions back here. Everything was sold out. So if we get that back here, that's going to make a big difference too. And bartering and trading is a good thing. cut out the middleman, cut out the tax man, you know.
Right.
If you're just trading somebody something, there's no tax there. There's no tax.
Right.
But, you know, again, they come out. I mean, in our county, there is so much oil money. They have so much oil revenue tax money in our county, and we're driving on streets. They should be at least, if not gold, they should be as smooth as gold, okay? Because they're just not. They're not good streets. They're not, you know, the towns are poor. People are hungry. You know, talk about, you know, poor. Our town is really poor. You know, we almost lost the town, and we don't have money. So, and that shouldn't be. That shouldn't be. We
Right.
should be doing really well, and we're not.
Right.
If, you know, and there's been bad here too. You know, so and right now we're going through, you know, trying to get the city council again, you know, straightened out, and that's a whole other topic. I mean, we have conflicts of interest there. We have people that are, you know, from the previous administration that were in trouble, that are corrupt, and they're running for city council to get the only good person out of there. So really pray for our town because we really need
Right.
her to stay on there. They don't like her because she's not a yes ma'am. You know, she
Mhm.
goes by the book and she does everything right, and she's the only one that has gotten us any grants in this town. So, you know, by filling out doing the stuff that you're supposed to do normally, you know, to get things done. Unfortunately, I tell her all the time, read the fine print, please. You know, don't
Right.
sign us up for anything. You know, it doesn't really affect me that much because I'm not in the city. If I was in the city, I'd be on this. I'd be running for city council. I would have been in there trying to, you know, work with her in getting things straightened out. But I can't, you know. So I talked to her about what's going on in our city and stuff. I ran on the county level. I was the precinct chair for the county because I was able to do that. And I did go as a delegate to Houston and all that stuff. But then I just felt like I was spinning my wheels and wasting my time. Nothing was getting changed. Nothing was being accomplished, you know. And so I probably would go back at some point, but there's so many changes that need to be made, and I don't feel like wasting my time, you know, without being able to make any kind of change there, you know. So
Right.
hopefully things will change and we'll get some of those priorities put through that the people want, you know. That's what the whole process is for with the delegation. You know, you go as a delegate, you put forth the will of the people and ask them to change things, you know, make the changes, and they look at it, they pick the list, you know. But you have so many people meeting at this convention, and then you get narrowed it down to a smaller list. But even
Mhm.
that small list that was the priorities that went forth for the Republican Party, I don't think anything has changed. I'd have to go back over and look at the priorities and see if anything actually happened.
Bill, real quick, I wanted to respond to your last two comments when you said, well, term limit, they won't be able to collaborate as much. And then you said, think about Pelosi and how long she's been dictating. I get those aspects, which I can support term limits for that. But whether, you know, somebody believes we get to vote people in or they're pre-selected, it doesn't matter. If you got people voting in the same beliefs, you know, just a different face, they're still going to be pushing the same agendas. If they're pre-selected, whoever's behind the scenes picking our congressmen and senators, well, was to stop them from picking a different face with the same set of or lack of morals and stuff. So we could just be not necessarily trading out um, what's being done or ideas and stuff, just maybe trading out faces, you know. And it's not about whether they're pre-selected or voted, because either way you can just be repeating the habit with just a brand new face. That's my concern, is it really going to stop that? And I think the only way to um try to stop that on any level, if we're going to put term limits in to help change that, is to start really trying to educate people. We need to change, what's taught in the school, which is why I'm glad Trump's sending it back to the states, and hopefully parents are going to have more of a say in what's happening in their school. Hopefully parents start taking on more of a role at home and educating their children beyond what they're taught at school. Also, if there's people behind the scenes who are pre-selecting, hopefully we can get some of those people out because that's not supposed to happen. We are supposed to vote people in. So I just think there's a lot of corruption and stuff that needs to be addressed, if we want term limits to work the way that we want them to. And we just lost Carrie. She's been having a lot of internet issues tonight. Bill, I agree with you. We need to get rid of the parties. It's a money game and it's a divider. I agree wholeheartedly. Um, I hear my children and grandchildren going crazy, and we've only got about 3 minutes anyway, and we just lost Carrie. So I think we're just going to go ahead and end the show. Well, here's Carrie. Yeah, we've only got, let me get her up here. And Carrie, I was just
What
starting to end
happened?
the show. Yeah, we
Was it
lost.
just me?
No, it's you've been freezing all night and lagging, and then you just froze for the longest time and dropped out. But yeah, I was just gonna end the show because we only have now about 3 minutes, 2.5 minutes, and
I
my
just
husband
want to
had
make a quick comment.
yeah,
Let me make a quick comment on the so that when they're in there for long term, they're getting more money and more power and more greed and all that stuff.
right,
Yes, we could put another corrupt person in there. They may even have better ideas of how they can be corrupt, but we're still starting fresh again. And I think that it would help. I definitely think it would help. These long term politicians that you know seem to get more control while they're there.
yeah.
The longer they're there. So anyway, I'm
I
sorry about the
definitely
internet
agree.
on it.
Yeah. No, it's not a problem. We just only had a couple minutes. We had lost you. My husband's gone to pick up my son in Lexington, and so my children and I have two grandkids here, and they're just going berserk. So I was like, let's just end it a couple minutes early and say goodnight. So I just want
That's
to thank
fine.
everybody for joining, and thank you, Carrie. Um, don't forget, the
Thank you
show
for having.
is moving to Tuesday night. You're welcome, Carrie, anytime. Anything else you want to say before we go?
Yeah, let's just pray out real quick. Lord, we thank you for
Absolutely.
this night. Lord, we thank you for this information that's going out. Lord, I pray that everybody that listens to this, Lord, would be blessed and that you would give them wisdom. In Jesus' name I pray. Amen.
Amen. Thanks, everyone. Good night.
Everybody, bye.